Not much, just really excited to be here, and been a whirlwind over the last, I don't know, call it a week and a half. Maybe it hasn't been that long, maybe it's been longer. But anyway, excited to be here, and certainly thrilled to be a Wisconsin Badger.
What was kind of the draw to Wisconsin? Obviously, you're looking for positions. What were some of the things that stood out about Wisconsin, this opportunity?
No, I think a number of things. I think that number one, the Wisconsin brand, having an appreciation for what this football program has been for a long time. I think if you poll coaches, they probably wouldn't be honest with you, but if they were, there's a respect factor, I think, across this country for the brand of Wisconsin football. And that obviously, stemmed from number one, winning, but then number two, just kind of the brand of football and the blue-collar approach to things that is very evident just in my short time here, which is thrilled. It kind of matches what you maybe expect. And then, two would be Coach Fickell, and obviously his leadership and his success rate, proven approach to building a program, and so I'd really highlight those two things, and the town of Madison as well. I mean, I think you're talking about one of the best places to live in the country, and if you're looking at jobs, and I've been fortunate over the last 20 or some odd years to be a number of places all over the country. A place with just those three, elite leadership, an elite program with a tried and true approach, and a town like this, a college like this, from an academic standpoint, because from a sales standpoint, you got to do that with recruits. Goodness gracious, that checks a lot of boxes. So, excited.
When you look at the way things ended at USC, it's never an easy situation, I imagine, but what do you think you learned about yourself and things you can take with you into this position?
Oh, I think you're always learning. I mean, I think, what happens is, when you don't have success that you expect, that you can circle that and highlight that, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But it also, creates a chip on your shoulder. And I'm not sure there'd be anyone in the country with a bigger chip than what I have. But then you also go back to, again, I think it's 21 years in the business, and the championships and the high level of success that you had. You can't just circle one. For instance, I can't convince you of the one season when we were elite as being the only thing on the resume. But somehow, sometimes you get when you don't have success, and that becomes circled as if that's the only season that you've ever coached. But no, you take a lot from all those things as part of this sport, part of this profession, part of this business, and excited for what's next.
Did you kind of have to sell yourself a little more when you started looking for your next opportunity? Obviously, you had a pretty good track record up until those last couple of years. How much did you think that kind of maybe impacted your stock?
It's interesting you asked that, and I don't think I've given a lot of thought to it specifically that way. I think in the coaching ranks, probably when you talk to football coaches, maybe the exact opposite of what you would assume is I think there's a respect factor across the profession, guys that have been doing it for a long time, and that's a two-way street. I mean, it's an understanding from a coaching standpoint. A program may not have the exact same year that they expect to have, but understanding that there's a track record behind it, and there's maybe a little bit more big picture stuff that behind the scenes that coaches have an appreciation for. And I think also have taken over three of the worst defenses in the country, and my three opportunities to be I kind of have a tendency to be attracted to that in my past. And so this last time was a very short stint, and it didn't go as fast as we wanted it to. But no, there's a process to that, and I'm excited to be part of a build here. Going into a second-year program, and there's some likeness that happens as a new staff when you're trying to take over and you're trying to implement culture and those things. And sometimes it goes faster in some places than others, but and then sometimes it doesn't. But no, I think maybe specific to your question, maybe not as much as you would think.
What did you do after you had the end of the season free, what did you do at that point? You just got your bearings and kind of recharge, or how did you spend those last couple of weeks in the season?
Yeah, I think number one, stand tall and be proud of who you are. And I think some of it is an opportunity to connect with guys that you otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to. I think some people would say reflect, and then I think reflection assumes change or things you would do different, and probably more same as than you would think. You know, I think again, very short stint at the last place. You know, the one consistent thing from a success standpoint, if you and I wouldn't be the first one to try to convince anybody of this. I mean, anything that a lot of times it comes with some hard times. You know, whether it's an individual basis or a program basis, and walking to the program at Wisconsin that I wasn't in the building every Sunday last year, but there's some struggles as you're going through the process of building. And sometimes you get a chance to get to the other end of that, and other times you don't get a chance to get to the other end of it. So some of that reflection is saying, okay, wait a second, was the process in place? Are there things you would change inevitably, and all those things? And then also you start looking at, okay, what's next, and what do you want to be a part of? You know, and where can you have an impact, and some of those things. So there's a number of things that go into it. But no, you get punched in the mouth. You try to stand tall and set your jaw and get ready for what's next.
What do you want this safety group to look like at Wisconsin based on how you coach that group? And in addition to that, what will your role be as co-defensive coordinator? Like, how do you envision working with Mike Tressel?
Yeah, excited to work with Coach Tressel and then have, talk from a respect standpoint. Again, the guy has a track record, been doing it for a long time. And so specific to that end of things, just want to have an impact, from a staff standpoint, and in the room on a day in and day out basis, which people don't see, and included in, would be in the meeting room as a defense staff starting today. But just that, it's in every which way to support the other members of the entire coaching staff, including Coach Tressel. And then, specific to the safety position, I think there's some experienced guys there. Which is fun for me to turn on some film and be able to see some guys running around playing the game the right way. And by and large, I think that's what the film would suggest. I think as much as anything is when you're talking about the safety position, one of the things I mentioned to the guys this morning is they call you safety for a reason. And so making sure that there's an understanding that defending the run is pass first defenders, and being that last line of defense in certain coverage concepts, and respecting your responsibility that way. But on the same token, have an impact both in the run game and the pass game, and you like to be when you're at the end of the season really looking at the numbers from a production standpoint. That is it tackles? Yes, but is it disruptive plays and opportunities to maybe get in the backfield, maybe on a blitz and some of those things, but also from coverage aspect of things. Is one of the things is really challenge these guys to hands-on footballs. Ideally two, which means you're coming down with it, but be a disruptor that way as well. And so it's a job description that's lengthy in college football these days. All the things. As I tell guys, safeties have to be able to cover a 6'4" wide receiver, a 5'9" speed guy in the slot, and also a 6'7" tight end. And so there's a lot to. Oh, by the way, you got to stop the run when they run it. So no, all those things, and I think as a group been really pleased, being around them, and that's something. Anytime you go to a new spot, you don't know what room you're walking into. But they've been coached at a certain level for a long time around here, and so excited to be around them.
Alex, when you mentioned that chip on your shoulder, is that like to maybe prove the outside world, like the coach you are, or kind of what does that mean to you to have that chip?
No, I think when you've competed for championships in a number of different conferences, and going back to being an 18-year-old guy with no clue, going to a place like Mount Union and winning a bunch of football games at that level, and every stop along the way having success. You long to feel it, and have been that long since feeling those things. But no, specific to that, no. The film's a film, and you got to embrace it when it's right, and you got to take the lumps when it's wrong, and that's part of it. But no, and in terms of perception and those things, that certainly is not what I mean.
Alex, you've had some success on the recruiting trail when it comes to landing highly touted 4-star talent. Just how would you describe your approach to recruiting and establishing relationships with recruits?
I think it's a number of different things. I think one from a standard standpoint is you've got to hold yourself. You got to really discipline yourself as a coach to hold yourself to a certain standard. As generally speaking, you want them to be big, fast, and ready to play. And if they're not able to do all of those things, which not every high school guy in the country can, is you say, okay, what are we willing to compromise? And by and large, it's the ability to play right away. You want speed potential, you want size potential, regardless of rankings and those things. and then guys with over the course of time from a development standpoint that you think can, we say the standards to be the best player at your position in the conference. At some point over the course of time, can they be that? Now the goal is to be much greater than that, and so you're trying to project that's part of it. But the speed potential and size potential would be the big thing, and that can be come from high school ranks all over the country, and then obviously the added piece in terms of if you can't find it in the high school ranks, then it's something you look through to from a transfer standpoint. So all of that stuff is factored in from a recruiting standpoint. But and then the final piece from a safety position is there's some talking that goes on, from a communication standpoint, and so guys have to have that ability as well. There's a lot to sell here, which is the fun part. I mean, that's there's been places over the course of time that all of us coaches have been at where the don't look at this, type of approach to recruiting versus a place like Madison and a school like this. All you're ever trying to do is trying to find what separates you from the rest of the country and in the college football landscape that we have now. It's I don't know if it's becoming more difficult to do, but certainly when you have a place to sell and the academics and all that comes with it, and it certainly is better than being some other situations.
With the changing face of the Big Ten, y'all will be seeing USC. Is that a day you have circled, or what do you kind of expect in terms of reception?
Oh, no, and believe me, other than this conversation, right? I mean, none of this is about me. So no, I quite frankly, no. I'd be excited to be in Camp Randall next year as soon as possible, and be excited to coach at Wisconsin. That's a pretty good schedule coming up, and there's a lot of games to circle as you go through it.
What have been your early impressions of the defensive and safety personnel here you're inheriting?
Yeah, and so this time of year, you're able to see them in the weight room, so you see them train. Coach Bray does a phenomenal job. I mean, that's one of those things that if you're coming in on an interview, number one, you got to remind yourself you're the one being interviewed, so you can't go into a program and start interviewing the strength coaches. That's not your role. But at the same token, there's in the back of your mind, what's that room like? Because there's nothing we can do as coaches that can compensate for deficiencies that way. And that's very real. There's not a call, there's not a technique, there's not a fundamental, there's not anything you can do other than line up on the goal line and try to keep everything in front of you from a size standpoint, and I mean the right size, speed, the physicality that comes with those things. Every call gets better, every technique gets better. And so I bring that up because so much of the time this in just a brief week or so here has been spent down there, and the guys train, and so that's one of those things that it's a starting point, but it's exciting to see that. So when you talk about, again, the film's going to come in terms of meetings and some of that, and you get to do a little bit of that this time of year. But do the guys train? Is there a mentality? Is there you say blue collar, and it's easy to say because it's cloudy outside and it's cold, but no, that it has to be in the building. It has to permeate the walls. It has to be something that is, when the guys show up every single day, they understand that they're clocked in, and still that same approach that when they leave the building, they're still Wisconsin football players in every which way. And so, no, I'd highlight that right now. There's the outside world be awfully proud of what's going on in this building.
Been good with Coach Grinch?
All right.